Okay. All right, with that, we know more people will be joining, but this webinar is being recorded and we're going to post it on the Tamio website. Everybody has busy schedules, so you may be watching this live or you may be watching this on demand later on. I am Shauna Haley. I'm your host for today's webinar, but I'm not going to be doing this webinar all by myself today. I have a co-host, Thomas Reeves. I'm going to do a quick round robin of everyone. We are excited that you are jumping in for our second webinar of the month. We very rarely do 2 webinars, but this one was very useful, we thought, and very timely because it's the new year, new you. Think through all of those things, and hopefully most of you are getting a little ahead of budget and thinking through how you want to use your training and education dollars for this next year if your city actually includes that in the budget. But there are a lot of choices and you hear about them all the time in our organization. Do you do a specialized certification program? Do you go back to school and pursue a master's degree? What's going to be best for the goals that you have? Do you even really know what your goals are? We have just a stellar panel of folks with all of the certifications, all of the degrees, and all of the information to help you think through choices that you might want to make. So as I mentioned, with me today is Thomas Reeves. He's the Director of Public Affairs for the City of Baytown. We're going to tag team a discussion with our panelists. And in the interest of time, because I don't want to be talking for a long time, we have all of our panelists' information on the Tamio website. So you can read their bios there. We have Jackie Lembies, we have Ashley McDonald, we have James Earp. So everybody has a variety of certifications, and we're going to dig into each of those through our questions. Today, we expect you to have some questions for us. We're not using the chat. Use the Q&A function. Thomas and I will keep an eye on that, and we'll make sure that we have time to answer your questions. And we do want to save time at the end. And it's that chance for you to dig in and ask some really specific questions of our panelists. So, Thomas, do you want to go ahead and kick it off with our first question?
Yes, I absolutely can. So the first question, thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. We've got a great panel. And first with Ashley. Ashley, I'd love for you to share about your various certifications. Can you tell us a bit more about the FEMA Master PIO program, the FBI LEDA Master PIO program, and the CPSE, the Commission on Professional Credentialing Public Information Officer designation? It's all a bit overwhelming.
Yes, and since that's a mouthful, I'm going to pull up a slide deck to help us break that down a little bit. Okay, can everybody see the screen? All right. So first, I'll talk about the different certifications. These are the programs I'm going to be talking about. I actually have 2 of these programs that I've gone through. I've gone through the FEMA program. I've gone through the FBI LEDA. The newer one is the University of Tennessee program, but it's being highly recognized within our state and now in multiple states. So I just want to briefly touch on those programs. So FEMA's first. I like to lead with this one because this one's very cost effective. These courses are actually free to you and your agency. The only cost associated with this is if you travel actually to Emergency Management Institute in Emmitsburg, Maryland, you will pay for your meals, but that's it. They pay for lodging, they reimburse your agency for travel. So starting out with the basic PIO program, these kind of all build upon each other and are prereqs to one another. So the basic PIO program, you have an awareness course that you take actually online, independent study. And then you have a 3-day course, which is like 2 days of classroom experience, talking about the basics of being a PIO. And then they go into more deep dive detail into joint information systems and centers. And then you go to the advanced PIO course, which you have to have 2 years minimum on the job experience. It's a 5-day in-person class. These can be held on campus in Emmitsburg, or if you have enough people in the region, they will actually come to you and deliver the course. It's classroom for the first 3 days, classroom lecture, and then the last 2 days are actually a joint information center exercise between, now it's a city, a county, and a state, in this massive event that nobody knows what to prepare for. It's amazing. And that was actually my first experience in any sort of JIC environment. I was very thankful to have that under my belt before I actually had to be in one. And then the Master PIO program is their final cake topper. And you do have to have extensive experience as a public information officer, along with the basic and advanced under your belt. It's a 3-week non-consecutive, 3 non-consecutive weeks course at EMI. There is also a capstone project, a research paper. So I have been through all of these, and I highly recommend those. I have also been through the FBI LEDA courses. The NPR course is Media and Public Relations. It's a 4.5-day in-person delivery, and it covers the areas that you can see there on the screen. The Master PIO program through FBI LEDA is a build on, again, from the NPR. It's also a 4.5-day. These two have more of a desktop-based exercise, one in crisis, simulated crisis, and the other one is sort of that crisis management. I wanted to take this course because at the time I was going to be a city PIO, and so I wanted to expand my horizons a little bit. And this one was more geared toward law enforcement. And at the time I was serving in at the fire department. And it really did have a lot of wonderful components, not just for law enforcement, but there were really applicable lessons in all of the material. The biggest standout for me was the strategic advisor. So we have a city manager on here, so a public information officer or communicator reporting to a city manager. This would help you to communicate more effectively and be more seen more as a credible strategic advisor as opposed to just a spokesperson. This is a newer course. I think they're going to have their 4th delivery in March, but it is a 40-hour course. It is university level through the University of Tennessee's Law Enforcement Innovation Center. I haven't had the opportunity to take this course, but I'm going to be teaching components of it. Another thing about this course, it does require continued education. So I actually just taught at their symposium where their first 2 cohorts were getting their hours in for their requirement. But these are the areas of instruction here, and there is pre-work and homework as well. I forgot to mention both of the FBI LEDA courses are $7.95 each. And then this one is $6.95, but it includes lunch each day. And this one is also in-person delivery. So I'll send this slide deck to the host after, and they can send this out, but this is just how you'll connect. And then we'll talk about the Center for Public Safety Excellence has a professional designation for public information officers. So credentialing is something totally different from a certification. It evaluates and documents what you've done as an individual, and it really also instills the principles of lifelong learning and continued education and development to further your career success. And so this is sort of a little breakdown side by side of the differences. A certification basically is an individual saying an individual has met the requirements of a certain course or program. You've passed the assessment. It recognizes your competence as an individual. And it's just one component within the credentialing process. The credentialing process likes to look at your broader professional accomplishments. It's also a third-party verification of your competency. And then it's maintained through various training and professional development exercises over the course of however long you want to obtain that, or however long you want to maintain that credential. I like to tell people I can tell you all day long how great I am, which I would never do that. But if somebody that you respect much more so than me tells you how great I am, then that's a little bit more palatable. How do you apply and who's eligible? So any person who's actively employed as a public information officer, whether it's full-time, part-time, contracted, volunteer, for any of the agency types that you see down here. And the unique thing about this credential is it was the first of its kind for CPSC to widen or broaden their horizons and go outside of fire and emergency services. So anybody, city, county, I even like to say the PIO at Disney World could apply for this. So it's really exciting that we have this opportunity. In order to apply, you'll go to the Center for Public Safety Excellence website, download the application in the store. It's free. You can complete the components of the portfolio once you've seen if you're eligible based on either a category A selection or category B. I'll like briefly touch on that. This could be its own presentation. But the cost to submit your application or the application fee is $395. And then you do renew for a lower cost every 3 years. So these are the components of the application. Of course, we want to know your experience, your education, your professional development goals. They're in 3 different areas: accountability, response policies, and public education. And your professional contributions and recognition, that could be within your organization or an organization you're affiliated with, or your agency, or just in the community. Your memberships and affiliations, so this would count, this group you're in now. Community involvement can be anything from, it can be in your actual community, like a volunteer group, but it also can be serving with your church, a ministry group in your church. Category A, people who are eligible, for Category A do not have to write to the technical competencies that I'm about to show you. There are 4 different pathways that you can get through Category A based on your education and experience and training, and some of those courses that I talked about earlier, those are included in that, and we hope to add more. But if you don't qualify that way, there's still hope you can possibly qualify by Category B, and you would have to write to these technical competencies just to show that you have, that you have extensive experience in these areas. The first 3 are just standard on all of the applications for professional designations, and then the others are tailored specifically to PIO. And then these are the ways that you can connect with CPSE, either through their socials or through their website, and this is the way that you can connect with me. So I'm hoping that we get a lot of questions on this later, because I love talking about it.
I hope so as well. Let's look at a couple of others. Jackie, most of the group knows about your involvement with CPC. So this is kind of a 2-parter question. The first part is, will you please talk about what CPC stands for and what it is? Others may not know as much about APR, and you're also very familiar with that program. So if you wouldn't mind touching on that also.
Hi, so thanks so much, Shauna, for inviting me to participate. I appreciate it very much. As many of you know, we started the Certified Public Communicator program at TCU really in 2012, before the students came to our campus for the first time. And we were at a Tamio session where we just stood in the front of the room and listened to what Tamio members told us they needed in terms of sort of post-baccalaureate education. And we developed the program sort of based on that, since you all are a founding partner, and we've since partnered with 3 other organizations around the country, NACIO, the National Association of County Information Officers, TSPRA, which is the Texas School Public Relations Association, and 3CMA, which is the City County Communication and Marketing Association. So we're really happy to have that professional input, and all of those folks are on our board to tell us what you all need. And so we started the program with students in 2013, and we have graduated 250 folks, and we accept cohorts of around 25 people each year. And what happens is students and professionals, they come to our campus and hang out with us for a week and 2 different summers, and we have a midwinter check-in in between. So you're on our campus about 13 days, and we are walking alongside you as we are teaching you, but also helping you write a communication plan for your organization. So what we're really interested in is strategic communication, doing things well and efficiently, helping you work smarter, and helping you understand sort of the 360-degree view of marketing, advertising, and public relations. Oftentimes people choose our program because they may have a bachelor's degree in something else, or they started their career in another field, or they may have been a journalist, and now they're hopping into and have maybe been working in the public sector for a while. Maybe the best thing about our program is it is, like a lot of the programs that Ashley just talked about, it's very directed toward public sector communicators. So we are serving people who work for cities, counties, school districts, water districts, public hospitals. and other agencies that are similar to those. So all of our case studies and examples, while we may talk about business and we have some people from our business school at TCU who teach in the program, we mostly concern ourselves with case studies and examples from the public sector. It's a 95 hours of instruction across a week in summer 1 and a week in summer 2 with a midwinter check-in. We have a few other check-ins during the year by Zoom. And of course, you have a faculty member who walks alongside you as you're writing a plan, and then we give you feedback on that plan as you graduate in summer 2. The cost of the program is $3,450. That includes some meals, and we get a hotel block at the hotel on our campus, and that's an additional cost on top of that. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about that program. The first summer is really focused on theory. So we look deep into PR, advertising and marketing theories, as well as some ethical and other theories that are pertinent. We have 2 law professors who teach in the program to help you with that side of things. And a lot of people spend some time working on their social media policies and things like that they need. We want to write a plan that you need for your organization. If you want to find out more information about it, you can just type in Certified Public Communicator at TCU program. It'll take you to the Bob Schieffer College of Communication website that has more information for you. And of course, I'm available to help you as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions. I'll quickly talk about the Accredited Public Relations program that is offered by many PRSA and other similar organizations around the country. There are about 4,900 professionals in the United States who have the APR accreditation, and it involves registering to take the test and then studying for that test, taking an exam that is administered by a universal board, and then you will also present some information to a panel before you receive that accreditation. You can find out a lot of information about it through your local PRSA chapter here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's 2 active chapters on both sides of the Metroplex, and they're all around the country. There's some other organizations that are part of this effort. I think here's how it might be different from CPC. CPC, you learn in a cohort and you're with a lot of other professionals, and networking is a large part of the program. You're learning a lot from your peers, and we love having people who graduated from the program come back and lecture. So we have professors and active professionals teaching the program. The APR program is kind of a study on your own program. And so you will know maybe better what you need for yourself. Do you need the network? Do you want to learn from peers and that support system? Or are you kind of a self-starter and you can do an APR program? It's more generalized. It's not focused on public sector communication. It's just focused on public relations in general and how it's practiced in the country. So those are a little bit of the differences. They're both very worthy programs. And I'm happy to answer questions about either one. The local Greater Fort Worth chapter, PRSA, has used our facilities at TCU to have classes and help people study for the APR. So I can get you connected to somebody who could really help you with that if you need it. Thanks for the opportunity to share about both of these programs.
Thank you, Dr. Lambice. And we will definitely have more questions for you. And of course, attendees, if your head isn't swimming, it will be in just a few moments when we hear from James about yet another credentialing program. So Ashley's talked to us a bit about some credentialing and certifications that she's very familiar with and that I'm sure some of you are interested in going after. Dr. Lambice from an educational standpoint and from PRSA. And now, James, tell us a little bit about the credentialing program that you're most familiar with, which is the Texas Certified Public Manager Program. Believe it or not, we have some PIOs who are very interested in going in your path.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. So I'm going to start out with doing a screen share too, just because a lot of the resources I'm going to talk about are easily locatable by you all on the websites. So I'm going to screen share over here and pop up. Effectively, you should be seeing now the CPM National Certified Public Manager Consortium website. So what my program is focused around is certainly the management angle of folks who are in public service. So while it's not unique to information officers, it's not unique to communications, We certainly have a number of PIOs and comms folks who come through the CPM program to attain certification. Shauna is one of those folks who's currently in the cohort in Arlington. And I'm going to familiarize you a little bit with the various components of what it means to be in the Certified Public Manager program, and then kind of give you just a basic understanding of the various different options that are available to you. So many of you, some of you, I recognize some of the names, so some of you know me, but many of you probably do not. I am a city manager. I'm currently the city manager in Hutto. Whenever I first became involved with the CPM program, it was right after I had completed my Master's of Public Administration. One of my professors at UT Arlington was the director of the Arlington program, and he's very much wanted me to jump right into the CPM certification program. So I started the program as an assistant to the city manager. That's the job title I had whenever I started CPM back in the mid-2000s. And I took over running the program for the Arlington location whenever I was an assistant city manager. And now I am an actual city manager. So what is a certified public manager? Well, so the first resource is the National Consortium for CPM, for Certified Public Manager. It is a nationally recognized certification. It is effectively each state in the United States has the opportunity to gain the ability to issue or offer the CPM certification. But the National Consortium is where all of the data basically resides nationally. What is it about? Well, it's really about establishing the ability for folks who are interested in enhancing their managerial exposure and experience to come together and work in a program together to enhance those skill sets. And unlike some of the other programs that were mentioned here, this is definitely a longer time commitment as far as the calendar goes. Maybe not as much as contact time goes for some. The contact time for the Certified Public Manager program is around 120 to 140 hours in the year. There's 300 hours approximately that once you include the readings, the exams, the final capstone paper that all go into it. So you can learn quite a bit from this exact website that I'm at right here. What it is, why you should consider doing it, so on and so forth. Now I'm going to flip over to the Texas program. So the Texas program was started at Texas State University in 1995. That's when it was originally rolled out in the state of Texas. Since then, there have been 2,200 people come through the Texas Certified Public Manager program. And the Texas State website is txst.edu/CPM. That'll get you to all the information you ever wanted about the Texas version. And what you're going to see here is that it's really focused on folks who are in public service. So you could be a nonprofit, you could be state, federal even, but generally speaking, you're going to be in public service. And the reason that I point that out is because as we go through like what all is involved in the CPM and where the different locations are and what that may do for your career, it really matters based off of what you're attempting to do and kind of like what your thoughts are as to the decisions that you make about where you might attend. It's not just a matter of geography per se. So the history, of course, I told you about being formed in 1995. 1996, I think, was the first class. And the menu over here is fairly easy to navigate. If you go into the program details, it's going to lay out that there are 6 focus areas that effectively are the outline for the material that gets developed. Another thing that's unique about the CPM is that it is predominantly not academic driven. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, which I will lay out here in a second. But what that means is it's a lot of practitioner, the people who speak, who are presenters. And we have as many as 30 to 40 presenters throughout the calendar year where we're meeting. The time commitment on these are different also depending on which of the various different facilities that you choose to go through in Texas. So mine, I can talk about in Arlington. We are on a cohort system. So not unlike what Jackie was talking about, everyone that is going to begin the CPM program in the Dallas-Fort Worth area over in the city of Arlington, which is who hosts it, begins in January. So they start in January, and track 1 is 2 months. So every track is 2 months. So by the time you get to December, you have gone through all 6 tracks that are dedicated for contact information. And then track 7 is the capstone paper, which is effectively meant to be a functional paper that you can utilize in your organization or in your own management journey, and not just an academic document, although there are publication options and so on and so forth. So what topics are covered? Well, track 1 is public personnel administration. Track 2 is managing for quality. Track 3 is organizational communication, which some of you folks may know a little bit about. But again, coming at it from the managerial aspect and not just the PIO type aspect. Track 4 is public finance and budgeting. Track 5 is productivity and program evaluation. So this gets into a little bit of the statistics and how you might gather information, particularly useful for your paper that comes up in track 7. And then track 6 is our scary track about information systems for managers. This is where we like to freak people out. Jackie, we bring over one of the professors from TCU, and he's a white hat hacker, and he shows everybody like how at risk your technological systems really are. It's pretty fantastic and scary stuff. Mike Bachman, you might know of him, or if not, then reach out and say hi because he's a cool guy. So anyway, so that's get you through basically the year program. The time commitment for Arlington is it's a hybrid delivery system. So that means the first month of the track, we will meet in person for a full day. And then the following day is a half day virtual. And then the following month are 2 half virtual days. The virtual component is compressed in time. So whereas someone may have a 3-hour time slot speaking in person, those time slots are generally going to be down to an hour and 10 minutes if they are virtual. So now let me get to kind of getting you some guidance on where you might want to go and do there. I think I need to go to the about down here at the bottom. Nope, that's not it. There is a location that shows you where the various different programs are. And of course, you know, now that I'm here looking for it, I can't find it. It's listed out, but it's not in a map form, which is what I was hoping to show you was the map. So you can see that there's Houston, there's Lubbock, there's locations out in East Texas. What you really want to do is you want to reach out to the contact information for the area that you're considering and to ask them about the flavor of their particular program. And here's why I state that. So in Arlington is heavy practitioner. It is also attended predominantly by mid-level managers or department heads or assistant department heads, police chiefs, fire chiefs, assistant city managers, city administrators, city managers, all the folks who are generally in some form of leadership or who desire to go into some form of leadership. That's the city of Arlington is almost 100% local government. However, if you were to attend Round Rock is about 60% state employees. And just proximity to the capital makes a lot of sense. So you get a lot different participants in whichever of the programs you may go. Likewise, you go out to the University of Houston and do the CPM there. Theirs is 100% academic. They don't have practitioners. They're using their own faculty to deliver the CPM material. So depending on what your actual goals are and what you want out of the program, your experience can vary quite differently depending on where you should choose to go through it. You will still cover the 6 tracks. You will still write the capstone paper. You will still have 300 hours of contact or of time invested in the program. You will still pay the same amount because all the programs that are associated are all charging the same amount. So all those things are the same, but the people that you're in the program with will vary, which is important because that also creates your network, which is a big aspect of being in many of these programs, is the network that you generate by the other folks who are in the program with you. My program in Arlington is on a cohort, so that means no dropping in, dropping out, but other programs don't do that. You can start whenever you like, you can finish whenever you like, so long as you complete all 7. So that's basically the kind of the CPM in a nutshell. The value to me, the reason that I'm involved, and I'm going to stop my screen share so I can just look at the camera. The value to me, the reason that I'm involved is I went through my MPA program and immediately I went into the CPM. There was not a lot of work experience in time between the two for me. They were effectively back to back. And the CPM for me was everything that the MPA didn't teach you, right? The MPA might have taught you about HR theory or maybe some case studies, but it didn't teach you how to conduct an interview, which is one of the things that we do in CPM. Finance, I might have learned how, public financing, theory works, organizational theory works, but that's not the same thing as how you actually do some exercises that can help you with budgeting, that can help you with the public whenever you're trying to get buy-in. And that's the value that the CPM program brings to the table. So I would say, first and foremost, if you want or are interested in leadership, if you want or interested in management, then the CPM program is a certification program that I would highly recommend for you. And then from there, depending on what your longer term goals are, the location that you choose also matters on the experience that you may receive.
Thank you so much, James. I'm going to circle back to Jackie. Of course, we've all said this is Dr. Lambies. So, which means she's gone through continuing education. She's not just walking around with a certification at the end of her title. So the point of that, Jackie, is that you have served on UNT and on TCU's faculties. So another option for folks that people do weigh out is, should I just skip a certification program and perhaps pursue a master's instead, whether that's specialized like an MA or an MS in communications, or government focused like an MPA. Why might an advanced degree be a good fit versus choosing a certification program?
You'll know if you're a nerd or not, folks. I think people who really want a lot more, it's interesting, people who've come through the CPC program or go through APR, or probably the CPM program and those wonderful PIO programs that Ashley talked about, you might get into those programs and earn some kind of credential, whether it's a certification or what have you, and you realize, wow, I really want to know more. And so you want to get a little bit more higher ed and you go get a master's. We know that this is kind of a trend where, I think the master's degree is one of the fastest growing degree categories in the United States, faster growing than the bachelor's degree is right now, and almost as fast as doctoral degrees. So those are even becoming more popular. And so we see people who get a little bit of a taste of something through these other credentialing programs, and they just want more. They want the theoretical standpoint behind it. So I think one of the things that you might want to think about is, what type of program do you want? Do you want an in-person program? Can you do an in-person program while you work? Probably that is very difficult unless it offers night classes. So is it geared toward professionals? Would you rather have a hybrid program or online programs? There's so many offerings around the country with these types of programs. And sometimes certifications are also offered by these master's programs. So you can get a little bit, like maybe take 12 hours to earn a certification or some type of diploma, and then apply that toward getting a master's. So those are some things to think about, is what kind of learner are you? Do you need that in-person experience or online? Do you want hybrid, so you at least have a little bit of in-person contact? Is there a cohort type of experience with master's programs? Often there is. I know for myself, I learned as much or more sometimes from my peers as a master's and doctoral student as I did from my professors. And so I kind of, I think, benefited a lot by having an in-person experience with colleagues who became friends and lifelong, colleagues or friends. And so those are some things maybe to think about. Also, the specialty of the faculty in these master's programs. Are they adept in digital or some of the topics that you might be interested in? Looking across the faculty and seeing what type of research they're doing, what type of professional experience they may have had, that might also help you select. I know that here in Texas, Texas Tech offers a lot of online courses for master's and PhD students both. I know that some people in the CPC program have gone on to the University of Alabama for an online and hybrid programs that they offer there. And so, take a look around, not just our state, but around the country. There may be a program out there for you that's a really great fit. And again, if you'd like to talk to me about local programs, I know people at so many universities, I can probably put you in contact not only with professors, but with maybe students who've gone through those programs. And I think that's the best way, is to talk to somebody else who's gone through the program. So when you are being interviewed for a position in these programs, ask to talk to other students or people who recently graduated. I think those are all ways to figure out, suss out where you belong.
That's perfect. Hey, Ashley, I wanted to ask you about the public safety nature of a lot of these credentialing and certifications. It would seem just by first glance that the credentialing and certifications that you spoke of are geared towards those who are specifically in public safety. But as you know, a lot of public information officers around the state and around the country are more general and not necessarily towards public safety. So what value could we might find in your credentialing and certification programs if we're not specifically tied to a public safety field?
Yeah, so the FEMA program, I can just tell you, my master PIO cohort, we had somebody from Red Cross in there. We had somebody, we had several that represented boards of commissioners. We had several city, county. So even though it seems like it's a federal agency or geared toward public safety, there really is something for all disciplines and all types of agencies. Specifically with the credential, we've also included the private sector, so like hospital communicators, different things like that, or like water. I don't know what to call them, but like water, the associations where several different water departments merge, those sorts of things. There is something to be said for, just like Jackie said, learning from, your peers, and having, those multiple disciplines in both the certification programs and as a credentialed professional. It's not just for public safety. It may appear that way. Even the FBI LEDA people may say, oh, that's just law enforcement, but there really is information for everybody.
I think we have one final question for all the panelists to weigh in on, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So be thinking through that. And some of you have certifications and have started kind of putting some comments in on that too, and that's also fine. So panel, if somebody is looking, this is an investment of time, and it's investment of money. Although I don't think we mentioned, but several cities do have options there, tuition reimbursement, like there are all kinds of options available. Scholarships, certainly CPC has some scholarships available through 3CMA. Is it worth it? I think bottom line, is it worth getting an advanced certification, and has it had an impact on career paths that you've seen? Any testimonials? And maybe we should start with Ashley on that, because you've certainly, with 3 certifications, I think there's probably a reason that you did it and why it mattered.
Yeah, and I think probably the other 2 panelists and even some in your group, like the major thing that I got out of it was the networking. There was a lot of great material, from the instructors, but the networking with the peers, and my cohort is still really tight from Master PIO. I still keep in contact, with folks from the other classes that I took. This is actually how the credential came to be, because Master PIOs got together in 2020 and everybody was going through such a challenging time, and we're like, what can we do to add value to this position? So we set out, we created a focus group, and then we set out to have an internationally recognized credential for public information officers to really bring, that intrinsic value, but also the value to our agencies and our communities. So that, and then being able to mentor, once you've gone through all these courses, you can be an advocate for the certifications or for the credentialing, but you can also mentor people on their journey as a public information officer or communicator. So it's just been great.
Jackie, James, do you have anything you would add to it, the worth it of investment of time and resources?
Yeah, so I would say there are certainly a number of doors that will open up to you if you have a master's degree, particularly one in public administration, if you're looking into leadership. I do believe these certification programs are exceptionally important for getting your foot in the door as well. If I'm looking at someone who has managed to achieve a certification in an area where they are a practitioner, I'm more inclined to interview those folks than if not. So I certainly believe that it's important for your betterment. Can you have too many certifications? Probably. I've seen the people who are like certification collectors, so you don't want to have 15 acronyms at the end of your name necessarily. It's great to be a lifelong learner, I think, but don't think that more is always better per se when it comes to the managerial view of this. And lastly, I do believe being a lifelong learner is important. So that says a lot about the capabilities that you bring to the organization. So I think it's definitely worth the time. Look, I'm very busy as a city manager. If I didn't believe the Certified Public Manager program was important to the profession of local government, I would not invest my time in continuing to operate it and to run it. There are other people who could do that besides me, but I feel it's important. I feel it's important that we have a voice for practitioners at the table for these certifications as well. So yeah, I think it's very, very much worth it, the time and the investment.
Just statistically, we know that, just 10 years ago, or a little more than 10 years ago, in 2011, 10.9% of people had advanced degrees. And in 2021, that number is up to 14.3% across the country. So we can see that there is this hunger and also need in our society with how complicated things are, that we need people who can really be deep thinkers and really be subject matter experts. And so that would be one area that I think is worth our time. In 2016, there's another interesting stat: 20% of job openings ask for an advanced degree. And so we know that sometimes these credentials and certifications can help us figure out, are we ready to do a master's? Are we ready to do graduate level work? Our program is really geared toward graduate level work. And a lot of students, I think, when they come through CPC, they get more confidence. They understand that they could be maybe a different kind of student than they were as an undergrad, right? We all have those regrets as, working on our bachelor's. We wish maybe we had been a little more focused, and they realize they can do it. And so they go on and work on a master's. So I think that's really exciting. I think also there's all kinds of micro credentials and badging that we really haven't talked about today. And those are some good places to make a start as well. They're in small ways, I think, show and indicate to our employer that we're interested in lifelong learning. And I think that's really what we're after, is upping our game, being a lifelong learner, as James says, and going forward with that mindset. I've taught in the CPM program about 15 years ago, James, and love it. I taught the weekend that they did the organizational communication. And so I really love that program a lot and know that it helps people really up their game. And we've seen people in CPC get job promotions. Lindsay Baker, who started off as the mayor's spokesperson for the city of Denton, she is now an assistant city manager here in Texas. So we watch people make really interesting progressions, and it's exciting to watch people want to get into learning and into knowledge building.
All right. Thomas, what certifications do you have? Continuing education. Just curious.
Well, I went the academic route. I was very interested in continuing education specific to the college life. And so I went for my master's degree in communication. And actually one of the deciding factors for me was I wanted to teach at the community college level. I really valued getting an advanced degree. Did not know if I was going to go all the way to my dissertation and a doctorate, but I was happy with a master's because it did allow me that opportunity to be in the classroom, at least at the community college level. And so that's what I do right now. I on the side, apart from my day job, I teach at the local community college, public speaking, how to give a speech, and I love that. Shauna, how about you? What did you do after your undergrad?
I also chased academic. I have a master's in organizational communications. Loved that. Don't regret that path at all. And my thesis work is still very valuable. All these many, many years later, it still very much applies because I looked at intercultural and small groups, and it was fascinating. But I did pursue a certification before CPM, CPSM, which was in my prior life before public service. It was focused on professional services marketing and just a little advocacy for how it impacts your career. I took the approach, those of you on the line, that while I was studying for it, I walked into my owner's offices and said, "Hey, I am learning all of these complicated proposal formulas and how to put together a good bid document. How do you do it? You know, you've been successful business owners for 40 years, and would you walk through this with me?" And that initiating those questions with them and demonstrating an eagerness to learn moved me from a coordinator role to a director role over the course of 3 years, honestly. And so I say that certification program really started it. Now, there was a little bit of, self-starter in me to go do that. But then the CPM program, my city manager suggested that I go through that. And really, I've always been a big believer that in our role in comms, we ought to know and understand the challenges of an organization and the things that keep our leadership awake and concerned, just as much as we are concerned with engaging with the public. And what better way to do that than to sit through a program that really is almost like that light level of an MPA. And James, I don't remember if you mentioned it or not, but these hours can be put towards an MPA if you want to pursue. It's a portion of them. So you are learning what your city management is concerned about. You're learning those issues of council management that they're dealing with, and that is very, very beneficial in the comms role. So it was very helpful to have somebody advocate for me for a program that I wouldn't have considered otherwise. So with that being said, I think we have some questions and comments coming into our Q&A, and we'll try to take as many of these live as possible. We have 13 minutes left. The first one is really just a piece of feedback, and I love this. This is from Allison, who both James knows and Jackie knows, and she's a current CPC cohort member. And so just a piece of feedback. She has two pieces of feedback. There are things that are different that you can learn and practice in the CPC compared to other programs. First is change management training, and the second is research methodology to help you develop a more complete and strategic communications path. And she thought it might be good for potential applicants to know about the volume of homework that happens outside of class. Jackie, do you want to address that homework volume?
Sure. Our program's no joke. Like, a few people haven't finished it, but most people gut it out and get it done. And some people maybe aren't quite ready for the amount of work it is. I think a lot of people come into our program, they want to write a communication plan. That's what you walk out with. You don't walk out with an academic paper. You don't walk out with just like, butts and seats kind of learning. You actually walk out with an organizational communication plan from our program that you can use. And so if you had to pay, if your city had to pay for that, they'd pay $10,000 or more for a communication plan. So you get professional development, you walk out with this plan, but that plan is a lot of work. And so in the fall, we ask students to do a lot of research. We call it homework, but they're basically doing, a communication audit of their city, county, or school district. Then they are, thinking about who are the voices in their organization? What does your digital footprint look like? And there's some other types of research homework that students are doing so that they know where the baseline is before they begin writing their plan. How can they measure achievement or success or KPIs or however you want to think about it without knowing what their baseline is? And so we asked them in the fall to figure that out if they don't already know that. And so that's the research part that Allison's talking about. And then we also make people kind of think deeply about, what is it going to require for you to execute and actually put this plan into action? And that may require change management, not just more communication. How do you change the people and processes around you in order to actualize your plan? So if you want to build more listening into your city's system, for instance, that's going to require people to change the kind of work they've already done. If they're mostly used to output, if they're mostly used to monologue. So how do you incorporate more listening? Well, guess what? You have to learn how to be a better listener, and you have to do a lot of things, but you also may have to use change management to do that. So thank you, Allison. Those are great questions, and they require a lot of time. We want people to kind of talk to other people in their organization. We know you can't write a communication plan and execute it all by yourself, but you have to have buy-in from people. So that requires some, kind of small p politics, right? And so we talk about those things a lot. And so it is a lot of work. And I think you really do need to find out, like, how much work is this going to be? Do I have time for it? And do I have support from my supervisor to allow me to do this as part of my job? Because it's going to make the organization better. So those are great things to think about as you're considering these programs.
And Dr. Lambies, that's a great segue into one of the questions that came through the Q&A, which is the fact that you've got to pitch this at some point to your leadership, and it's going to, you've either got to talk about the time commitment or the money, or how closely related to your job tasks this program is. So Ashley, and maybe James and Jackie, like, suggestions that you may have for someone who's interested in pitching this to their leadership.
Just for me personally, I would say, start small. Like I was saying, those FEMA courses, they were free to the agency, other than those meal tickets. So I think start small, show them the benefit from that type of course. And then, have those conversations about the ones that do have more cost, and just build upon each other and say, look what we were able to implement after this. Just imagine what we can do with this. And you're really just asking them to take, a professional investment in you, but for the betterment of the agency. And then if you do have, sort of like heartburn over having to go to your leadership about it, which I have had at times. I think, you talk to somebody that's been through the courses, and help them, or have them help you develop the pitch, practice with them, that sort of thing.
So I would add on to that, as the person at the top of the organization, funding is exceptionally important. And it really depends on how your organization approaches budgeting for professional development. So if you're needing to ask for professional development dollars, those conversations need to be happening for most organizations between now and March. Usually by the time you roll into April, May, the first rough estimates of the budget asks from the departments are being formulated and already discussed and submitted for city manager or high level administrative review. And the dollars for those trainings need to be in those budget proposals. If your organization doesn't approach, well, we're just going to budget X number of dollars each year, and then how it gets spent by the department's really up to the department head. That's a different approach. Most of the folks that I'm familiar with have to go and advocate to have the money put into the budget for the training. So that needs to happen this time of year. And it doesn't do you any good to be asking to have training dollars in November after the budget's been approved in October. If that, by that time the ship sailed, so to speak, until the next year. So you do have to be forward thinking. I think Ashley's advice about having a pitch is exceptionally valuable, particularly if the gatekeeper to the dollars, in this case, maybe a department head or an assistant city manager or even a finance director, if the gatekeeper of the dollars doesn't understand or isn't already an advocate for professional development and or certification seeking, I've asked my staff, effectively to do individual education plans, and then they can put into their own budget requests, the dollars for that for them and their staff. Now, at the end of the day, what's the easiest thing to cut dollars from? It's training. It does require people to continue to be advocates, but it's very important timing that you are timely on your requests to start getting that onto the list for things that will be requested and asked for.
It's a great question. And I think that this follow-up question is fantastic. Just finished my second bachelor's degree this last year, and I already know I want municipal government to be my life career. And like, congratulations to you, by the way. That's fantastic to know. This is my career path. So their question for the panel, do you recommend a master's route if, we know that municipal government's the thing, or is it better to go with one of these certifications?
I guess as a person who hires a lot, I will say it totally depends. And it's going to depend on what your long-term goals actually are. A master's degree can help open the door for you to organizations that might be more sophisticated and larger. Would the lack of a master's degree keep you from being considered for a job? Not necessarily. If you want to be in city management, that's a different question also than if you want to be, the PIO for your organization as well. So I do think it matters. The certifications to me are the way that I view them as a hiring manager are your dedication to your SME-ness, right? Your subject matter expertness, and or whether or not you are broadening your horizon. So if you have a lot of subject matter expertise in communications, hence our audience, and you want to become an assistant city manager, well, it would be good if you also knew how to do budgeting, and you also knew how to do HR, and you also knew how to do other things. So I would say that the certificates are your commitment to your own subject matter expertise. The master's degrees are a little bit more for, attempting to show that you're a higher level committed person to education and that you're capable of performing at a master's level. Well, you're just capable of performing at the master's level at the very least. So those will open up doors. There are job descriptions that say you have to have a master's degree to apply or 8 to 10 years of experience. So that's the sort of stuff you're going to see.
Fantastic. As a director, by the way, I say certifications for sure. But do a gap analysis on yourself.
Mhm.
What do you know? What do you not know? And what's the best path to get you to close those gaps? And that'll help you answer the question, because you can chase education forever. It's better to be a lifelong learner and not chase the thing,
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents. That doesn't mean don't go for it. It just means pick wisely. All right. Well, we're at the end of our webinar timeframe here, and I think I see one question that popped in. Oh, yes. Yep, I see that. Okay, so city management long term, then probably MPA is going to be your path. That's probably a pretty safe answer for you. We're going to put together a list of resources, including the slide deck, all of those web links, all of that fun stuff. That'll be uploaded to the Tamio website along with a copy of this webinar. Maybe I'll follow up with the panelists today and see if we might want to put emails for everybody too. So if you have some more specific questions, we won't try to bomb James too much, but I do know that maybe Howard might be a good point of contact for CPM instead, so that we can get some of those questions answered as we go through that. I do want to promote next month's webinar. Yet again, another hot topic. Wednesday, February 21st, we're going to be looking at strategies for effective employee recognition programs. One of the interesting things about being in the communications role in municipal government is that you touch a lot of things, and employee engagement, employee culture are very big subjects, not just for municipal government, but for the workforce as a whole. And we'll be diving into that with some cities that are really doing it well, and some cities who are trying to chart a new path. And so that should be a great webinar. Again, that's Wednesday, February 21st. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and may your educational path be an exciting and beneficial one for you all. Talk to you later. Bye.